once again it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome everyone to episode 84 of the Tristain Sports Show Toss. Yes, it is your main man, T-Squared, Tristan Thomas, your friendly neighborhood. Thank you all so very much for joining us this week. What do we have on tap? We have the Milwaukee Bucks on tap. They were successful in their quest for a sweep in the first round, and they await more than likely a powerhouse in the Eastern Conference in round 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals, Eastern Conference playoffs. Getting ahead of myself. We have to have a couple of quick Packers notes that we have to get through. The Milwaukee Brewers were 2 solid months into the MLB season, and I still cannot figure them out, but I'm going to try. And then the toss sweep, we got another episode of Shut Up and Play, and a major tennis star is not having it. But you all know how we get things started here on Toss. We get things started with the state of the state, and let's get right to it. The Milwaukee Bucks were successful, as I mentioned before, in their quest of a sweep of the Miami Heat, the Heat that really embarrassed them last postseason in the bubble, defeating them 4-1, bouncing them in the second round of the Eastern Conference Finals, Eastern Conference playoffs. Why do I keep saying Eastern Conference Finals? Am I just is that a precursor? Is that a Freudian slip? Is that where they're going to end up after the second round? Are they actually going to make it there? Oh, man, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But they defeated the Heat 4-0. And it wasn't so much that the sweep was their quest, because I don't think it was their quest. Their quest was just to win, to get better, to play well, win ball games. And that's exactly what you want. And you could feel that approach with this year's team. They're not so much worried about seeding. They're not worried about blowing teams out by 40-plus points every game and being dominant in the regular season. They're worried about getting better. They're worried about scenarios that they've encountered in the past in the playoffs and how they've learned from them and how they're going to apply that knowledge in these postseason games this season. It's really been a different approach, and you love to see it. It's an approach that has worked. Yes, they had ups and downs in the regular season. We've gone over that. They faced many challenges this regular season that they had not in the 2 previous seasons. But in this series, they faced a little bit of adversity. In this series, that first game was nip and tuck. It was close. It was gritty. They had to pull every bit of grit that they had out of themselves to try and win that ball game, and they did so in overtime on a Chris Middleton game winner. 2-point victory, you got out to a 1-0 start. You did something that you were not able to do in the semifinals last season, which was get a lead against the Miami Heat in that playoff series. You did so. You didn't shoot well. Giannis had a great game. The Heat played well. It was a gritty defensive game that really certain possessions were magnified. Game 2, you came in and you dominated. Giannis again had a good game. Game 3, Giannis was not great. He was rather, and it's kind of hard to call his numbers pedestrian, because even when he's not scoring, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, in this series in particular, even when he was not scoring, he had an impact on the game, both defensively, on the boards, and as a passer. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then game 4 ran around. And first of all, we got to hit the Bucks with one of these. Because it's warranted. They earned it. They earned that standing ovation. Game 4 this past Saturday was really a tale of 2 halves. On my Twitter at the20double, I mentioned that the Bucks had to slow down. Yes, you have a chance to win the series, close it out. Yes, you have a chance to close it out in great fashion by sweeping this team that really dominated you last postseason. You have those opportunities, but you still have to play the game, and you have to play the game to win. And what they were doing was not winning basketball. to say the least. They were really rushing things. They were sloppy, turning the ball over, rushing shots, rushing the offense, not being patient, not doing the things that had gotten them to a 3-0 lead. And you have to give the Heat credit. They played a little bit better in that first half. At one point, had a double-digit lead on the Bucks. But for as sloppy as they played, for as hurried as they played, they weren't down by much at the half. And that was really a minor miracle. It's a winnable game. So they come through. And in that third quarter, and they did exactly what I asked them to do. Or, what we were all asking them to do. Play winning basketball. Play the basketball that you played the 3 previous games. To not only get yourself back in this game, but to get yourself a lead and possibly get yourself a win. They slowed it down. They took control. And ultimately, they dominated. It was a 120-103 final, and the score wasn't even that close. Game wasn't even that close. It's 17 points, but it was not even that close. He got dog walked. They got dominated in the same fashion that they dominated the Bucks the previous postseason. They were absolutely dominated. They did not stand a chance. You go back and watch 4 games. They really, really did not honestly stand a chance in this series. I'm on the record as giving them 1 game. And I'm also on the record as saying it doesn't matter even if I felt the Bucks would sweep the Heat. It's Bucks in 6. That's just how we roll, even if we think they're going to sweep a team. It will forever be Bucks in 6. I thought the Heat would at least get 1 game. I thought this series would at least go back to Milwaukee so they could close it out at 5-serve. But if you can get it done in 4 games, then get it done by all means. Now you get a little bit of time to rest. Now they could harm them. A little bit too much rest can be harmful to the flow that you have, to the synergy that you have. We'll have to wait and see what this layoff has done to them. Their series can't begin until at least Saturday. It may possibly be a couple days earlier than that, but I believe Saturday is the earliest that can start. And at last check, the Nets were up on the Celtics in the fourth quarter. It's a double-digit lead as we record this program. Likely it will be the Nets. They're up 3-1 in that series. I think we all expected this. That series will begin in Brooklyn, as Brooklyn is the 2 seed, Milwaukee is the 3. It is going to be a challenge. But let's get back to the Bucks and the Miami Heat series. There are a couple things that I noticed here, and you could go and read the Toss blog at tossnationmedia.com, and I mentioned a lot of this in that blog, but for the purposes of the podcast, let's go over a little bit of what I spoke about in that Toss blog. The acquisitions by the Milwaukee Bucks, by John Horst, the GM, paid huge dividends in this series. Drew Holiday, what can you say about him? The entire league feels as if this is one of the most underrated players in the entire league. When a jury of your peers is saying that, it's got to be true. When you go and look at the tape and you watch how he's played all season long, and remember, this is someone who missed 10 games due to COVID. Came back, got his legs underneath him, and has been playing outstanding basketball ever since. And in these playoffs, he's locking up anybody that he goes up against. And in the next series, he's gone through some battles with some of those guys on the other team. Again, we're presuming that the Nets will be the team that is the Bucks' next opponent, Eastern Conference semifinals. He's locked up James Harden pretty well, pretty tightly. He's a versatile defensive piece. He's a high IQ basketball player. He makes the right pass. He takes the right shot. As I mentioned before, this is not a knock on Eric Bledsoe. I enjoy what Bledsoe brought to the table and what he did for the Milwaukee Bucks. There is nothing but love for Eric Bledsoe. But what you heard from everyone who followed the Bucks, who covered the Bucks, who spoke about the Bucks, is knowledgeable about the Bucks, would tell you that an upgrade at the point was needed. That Bledsoe, for as good as he was in the regular season, just was not there in the postseason. I'm on the record of saying as much as well. After 3 postseasons, it did not get any better. At that point, you have to make a change. And that was an area that was holding this team back. John Horst decides to go and give the King's ransom to the Pelicans, but you get a King's ransom back. And Drew Holiday, you sign him long term. He is very much a core piece to this team. What he does on that court is just, there aren't enough words for it. He's unlocked so many different things defensively and offensively for this team. Huge difference maker. Bryn Forbes, the flamethrower. A couple of games where he had 22 points in this series. Multiple threes, 6 and 7 threes made. Shot a career high from 3 in the regular season. Shooting it well in this postseason. Key guy off the bench. More consistent shooting. Bobby Portis, another guy who, guess what? Shot a career high from 3 in the regular season. Shot it very well in the Miami series. Key piece off the bench. A guy who will go in, is not afraid to mix it up on defense, who's not afraid to get in there and grab rebounds, who can get you inside-outside scoring. Key piece off the bench that paid dividends. And PJ Tucker. Now, so many people were so ready to jump on this trade. Just downtrod the guy because he wasn't giving you a whole lot in the regular season, and then he got hurt and he had to miss a few games, and then he came back in, and just people didn't understand his effect, and he was still learning his teammates, learning the offense, learning the defense. Then he started to get it, and now you see in the postseason, this was why this trade was made. It was made for this time of year. A veteran presence who've been through many playoff battles, who can still mix it up on defense, but is also a huge presence in that locker room. He gives this team an edge that they did not have the previous 2 seasons. He is part of that demeanor change. He's paying dividends. The biggest change, and not to say that those aren't big, because those are huge. Those acquisitions were huge for this team. It's led them to this point. Still got a while to go. You're only around 2, so hopefully you got a couple more rounds after. But one of the biggest changes for me that I saw in that Miami series, that was a welcome sight. Everyone talks about how Giannis gets a consistent jump shot. It's over. He's unstoppable. And why that may be true, he's still unstoppable now. Now let's put a caveat on this. There are a few teams in the league that can deploy the wall. We're talking 4 defenders, not giving up an inch on the inside, not allowing Giannis to get to his painted areas to where he could dominate. And then you haven't seen a more dominant paint scorer since Shaquille O'Neal than in Giannis Antetokounmpo. They wall him off. You're not going to beat us from this painted area. You're either going to take shots from the outside, or you're going to have to kick it out. And we're going to take our chances on these guys either forgetting how to shoot, which has happened the past 2 postseasons, or we're just going to get buried from 3. We're going to have to live with it. But we're not going to allow you to win. Now, he had a dominant first and second game. That third game, that wall was starting to get to him a little bit. And not so much from a frustration standpoint, but not quite as effective scoring the basketball. Even in game 4, not quite as effective scoring the basketball, but as I mentioned earlier, he still has an impact on the ball game. Defensively, rebounding, and passing. He had 15 assists and a triple-double in game 4, a closeout game, a game to secure a sweep. And he comes up with a triple-double, 20 points, I believe it's 13 rebounds, 15 assists, the most assists by a power forward in NBA playoff history. The biggest change that I've seen with Giannis going up against the wall, and remember, Toronto had the personnel to deploy that wall, made life very frustrating, very tough for Giannis to the point where he would go and get stupid fouls, or he's trying to force shots and he's getting fouls that way, and he's missing everything he's putting up, and he's getting frustrated. Now he's throwing the ball all over the place, making bad passes. Just got in his head, got him frustrated, got him flustered, and then the whole team crumbles after that when your shooters forget how to shoot. And the wall is being extra effective on this guy who was a dominant paint scorer. You're not going to win. And that's what happened. That's how they got bounced. That didn't happen in this series. Miami still has the personnel to deploy a wall. Eric Spoelstra is a great defensive coach. He knows how to make adjustments to make life tough for the opposition. And the wall was in parts effective on Giannis. But his patience, the fact that he played with a patience that I don't recall ever seeing him play with when he's going up against a wall. The patience to go to the post up. And if it's not there, patiently kick it out. Trust in those guys that they know how to make the jump shots. And they did that. Again, game 1 was probably the toughest game shooting from the outside. They were 5 for 31 from 3. But you did not see that kind of percentage after game 1. The shooters shot, and they made their shots, which made the patience much more important for Giannis. Took his time, understood that there's going to be spots that I'm going to be able to wriggle my way through this wall and get into the paint and score. And he did that. It's the biggest change. It's the most encouraging change that I've seen. Because I'm going to tell you what, if it is Brooklyn, and again, that game is not final as we record this program, but if it is Brooklyn, which we all presume it will be, in round 2, they don't have the personnel to deploy a wall. So who's checking them? Who's checking Giannis? Steve Nash doesn't exactly have the greatest defensive staff in mankind on the sideline. He's got D'Antoni over there. He's over there. He played in D'Antoni's system. He wants to be all gas, no brakes. Now, he understands that you have to make some defensive stops, but this is an offensive-laden team where you got James Harden, who's led the league in scoring multiple times, mid-30s in points. You got Kevin Durant, another guy who's won a scoring title. Oh, by the way, both of those guys have won MVP before. He's got a couple of rings. You got Kyrie Irving. He's got a ring. One of the best ball handlers in the league. Also a lethal scorer. When he gets rolling, he's tough to stop. That's all gas, no brakes. So who's really going to check him? You're going to try to put DeAndre Jordan on him? That's not going to work. We saw that in regular season. You're going to try to put Blake Griffin on him? That's not going to work. We saw that in regular season. You're going to send Joe Harris at him? No, I don't think that's going to work. You're going to put Durant on him? He's going to feast. I'm not saying that to poo-poo the Nets, but it's going to be very, very difficult. My point is they don't have the kind of personnel to deploy the wall. So this is going to be a very offensive laden series. But if you're the Bucks, you can't play and fall into that trap. Nets want to get out there. They want to score the basketball as many times as possible, as quickly as possible. You can't allow that to happen. You have to dig your heels in. You have to be really good and defensive. You have to continue to play your game. As I said before, it's going to be very, very challenging. But Giannis's maturity against the wall is so encouraging, and the acquisitions that were made by John Horst are paying big dividends. They're going to have to continue to do so. This was one of my worries on how that bench was going to do. So far, so good in round one. We'll see how they do in round two. But the Bucks secured the sweep against the Heat, 4-0. Exciting times for Bucks fans everywhere. Round two slated to begin on Saturday. We'll see if that is the case. I'm excited for that series. That is going to be a heavyweight fight. I would not be surprised if that goes 7, but we'll talk about that soon. Continuing here on Toss, State of the State, let's get in those couple of quick Green Bay Packers notes. OTAs continue. Defensive coordinator Joe Barry seems to be impressed with Zadarius Smith, Rashawn Gary, and Preston Smith. Well, duh. Duh. Despite the rough year that Preston Smith had, you know he has some skills. Maybe a new scheme is warranted. We'll see how he does in that scheme that Joe Barry is bringing to the table. He's already trying to find new and inventive ways to get all three of these guys involved. And I mean, that pass rush is something to be excited by. We all know what Z brings to the table. And Rashawn Gary, we already know he's on the upward swing. He's trending upward. He sat that first year really behind those two guys, watched them both get double-digit sacks. Got a little bit more involved in year two. You know, Zadarius, again, with double-digit sacks. Again, as I said, Preston Smith struggled a bit this past season, I should say. Rashawn Gary makes some splash plays of his own. He's coming to his own. It's exciting to see, but we'll see what Joe Barry brings to the table because for me, he's still very much a question mark. I mean, he hasn't exactly guided the defenses that he's had before to very much success. And you're talking about statistically a top 10 defense in the Green Bay Packers from last season that you are now in control of. So, you should be impressed by those guys, but how are you going to use them? Are you going to use them to their full abilities? Are you going to use them to just allow them to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback? Are you going to be a little bit more versatile with them? Are you going to move these guys all around the field? I mean, how are you going to really deploy these guys? I know we'll probably get into that a little bit more as training camp inches closer sometime next month. It's hard to believe as we record this program, we are in June. Training camp begins in late July. I mean, that's not that far away. We are not that far away. But we'll see what Joe Barry brings to the table. There's no new news on a contract extension for Aaron Rodgers, and the beef between himself and the front office continues. You got people coming out there with these documentary pieces on all the riff like it's The Last Dance or something, and it's not even close to that. I'll be honest, I'm really, I'll just say in local news here in the great state of Wisconsin, you see some media entities are milking the drama and trying to find they're trying to wring it out for all it's worth, and it's fatiguing. It's very, very fatiguing. There's no new news, and at least the people I've spoken with, there's not going to be any new news anytime soon. He's still under contract with the Green Bay Packers. There's an offer on the table. I don't know the nature of the negotiations. I don't know if they're still going back and forth. I don't know if it's just, Rodgers not having given an answer yet and not giving back a number yet, or I don't know what the case is. It continues to be a work in progress to find out what's really going on because nobody truly knows other than the parties involved. Nobody truly knows. So honestly, for me, it's a non-story. Currently, we know what the situation is. We know the fact that the contract extension has been offered, but to this point has not been signed, at least to our knowledge. There's still a bit of a rift there, and it's going to take some time to mend that rift, but it's a mendable rift. It really is. The lines of communication just have to be better amongst all parties. And that's something that's really easy to do if you continue to work on it, and if you're willing to work on it. Honestly, truthfully work on it. It's mendable. It's a non-story for me, but I'll tell you like this. It will get bigger the closer to training camp it gets. Because then you essentially have a holdout situation. You essentially have a holdout situation. If Rodgers does not show up to training camp, it's a holdout situation now. Now you're going to start finding him, piss him off even more. At that point, what do you do? If this radio silence on this continues, then we're going to find out in July, late July. But essentially no new news on that front. Things are what they are, and they have not budged. Continuing here on Tall State of the State, let's get to those Milwaukee Brewers. They're really a head scratcher. They're a difficult team to figure, at least for me. They're currently 29-25. As we record this program, they are down 6-2 in the second inning. 6-2 at the end of 2 innings. That's insane. After how well they had been pitching. And pitching is going to give up a stinker here and there, and this is one tonight. Pitching this past weekend against the Washington Nationals, especially in that Saturday split doubleheader, where strikeout Freddie had a complete game. Really good start for him. They got the win. They got the sweep of that entire series. Won all 3 games. 5 straight wins for them. That will probably come to an end if they don't get some offense here. I mean, they scratched across 2 runs in the first. It's too bad that they gave up 6 within 2 innings. But the pitching has been dominant. The pitching has been the strength of this team, and I've said that. I've been saying that for the last 3 or 4 seasons. The pitching has always been the strength of this team. Now, what is this offense going to do? Can they match that? When they have been able to match that, they've had a lot of success. In LCS, they won 7 games against the Dodgers, had every opportunity to win that series, but just fell short. But ever since that year, the offense has not truly matched up to what the pitching has brought to the table. They're sputtering. Now, injuries have been a problem. You know, you got Yelich back, and you had Kane back for a little bit, but now Kane is back on the injured list with a strained hamstring. Those things tend to linger, especially with the older players. You can't rush that because otherwise something worse is going to happen. You're going to be right back on the shelf. And when you're playing center field and you play it the way that Lorenzo Cain plays it, the Gold Glove level defense, you're going to need all your soft tissue injuries to be fully healed before you try to come back and play that same way. But even with him back in the lineup, he hasn't really been hitting that well. Keston here, again, that guy is too good of a hitter to be hitting this way. Christian Yelich, too good of a hitter to be hitting this way. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the philosophy of teams just going too far into analytics and launch angle and whatever else, trying to hit bombs as opposed to playing station to station the way the game used to be played. And look, I'm not saying that we need to go back to station and forget the home runs. Home runs are fun. Nothing like taking, the kiddos to a ball game and them getting a souvenir from their favorite player who just knocked one out the park. You obviously like to see that, but I also like to see a functional offense. I don't really like seeing everybody swing for the fences. I like to see the Tony Gwynn type hitters getting knock after knock after knock. It's a craft. A beautiful, wonderful craft when guys can hit. I'm not talking about just hitting home runs and you're getting, 40 and 50 home runs a year. That's not saying, oh, that guy can hit. No, that guy just has power. I like to see guys who can hit. If you got some pop in that bat while you're hitting, then all the better. Like a Mike Trout, like a Barry Bonds used to be. I don't know if they just dug too deep in this analytical stuff to where they're just more concerned with launch angles and knocking the ball out the park and getting that big 3-run home run and having to be feast or famine. It seems like it's the same way all over the majors. I like the station to station. I like the stolen bases. And I like some pop in the bat. Why can't you have all of that within an offense? All of that has led to a non-functioning offense for the Brewers. You're completely reliant on your pitchers allowing one or fewer runs to even give yourself a shot at winning the ball game. And there's sometimes where you end up getting shut out because you can't even scratch across one run because you're too focused on launch angle. As opposed to just going out there, trusting your craft, hitting the ball, getting base hits. If you got some speed, go steal a base. Get yourself in scoring position. Put yourself 90 feet away from home. I don't know what Brewers hitters are being taught. I don't know what bad juju is over their bats, but something's got to give. Again, they're currently 29 and 25. They're afloat within the division. They have a chance. But this offense has got to match this pitching in order for them to get well above 500 and put themselves as serious players for and in postseason. Again, we're just 2 months into it. Not even 60 games into the season yet. You still got some time to figure it out, but man, is it frustrating to go through that process. But they still got hope, and they're still afloat. And that's really all you could ask for at this point. It's time for us to run the toss sweep. The toss sweep brought to you by the good folks over at tossnationmedia.com. Toss Nation Media, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. Ooh, some people just can't leave it alone. Some people just don't realize that players are more than athletes. There's more to their life than your damn entertainment. Let's get into this one, because this one's got me slightly heated. Naomi Osaka, one of the best players in the world on that tennis court. Love watching her play. Every time she's on that court, it's appointment television for myself. I try to see her every single time she plays. Much like Serena, much like Venus, much like Coco Gauff. She made her thoughts known on social media that she would not be doing any kind of press conferences or media during the French Open tournament because she's not a natural public speaker. She gets anxiety. She's dealt with depression. And a lot of it is really brought on by the press, by the media at these kinds of events. Now, we've seen how the media, and let's just talk strictly about tennis. I've seen how disgusting some of the tennis media, and I'm not calling all of them out, but I'm saying some of them have been, especially towards black women. Especially with Serena, the GOAT. It's all out there. You go and look it up at some of the outlandish, out-of-pocket BS that they've been asking her and try to do to her and try to paint her as. Well, Naomi did not want to deal with it. She basically said, hey, look, I'm here to play tennis. I'm not a natural public speaker. This is something that really affects me. I'm here to play tennis, to be the best version of myself that I possibly can be on that court. And then I want to go home, get myself right, get back out here so I could do my job. Well, the powers that be weren't happy about that. Essentially threatened her with fines and really kicking her out of the tournament altogether. Instead of embracing her, saying, okay, this seriously affects you, your mental health, which is so serious. We're going to embrace you. What can we do to help you? What kind of environment, what kind of setting can we create that would make you feel comfortable so you can have some sort of media availability, or how can we support you in this endeavor to make you feel more comfortable moving forward and other people who may be feeling the same thing? They didn't do that. They just went straight to the threats. Well, we're going to find you and we're going to kick you out of the tournament if you don't do your media appearances, your post-game press conferences, win, lose, or draw. So Naomi looked at them like, all right, okay, y'all want to go that route? Y'all want to find me? Y'all want to kick me out of the French Open? Cool. I'm going to take myself out. I'm out. And she decided that, hey, I'm withdrawing. Don't worry about finding me. Don't worry about you even trying to kick me out. I'll take myself out. Why? Because she values her mental health. She values her peace more than talking to a bunch of media that has been unfair to the women, especially the black women players on that tour. And if you look at some of the social media posts that are dealing with this and some of the comments under it, they're just disgusting and they're infuriating. They make my blood boil. And I try to stay out of there, but I have to read some of those comments because you just can't really believe the ignorance that is out there. And I read some of these comments and it just saddens me that people are still out there thinking that way. You know, it boils down to a lot of people feel really entitled, and if this black athlete, this black woman ain't doing what you ask of them, if they're just not there to, if they're not doing their part to entertain you and give you what you want, then let's crucify them. Let's call them all out of their name. Let's just be as vicious and as nasty and as disgusting as we possibly can with them because they're not giving us what we want. So let me get this straight. You had this whole shut up and play movement. Oh, we don't want to hear about your problems. Just go out there and play. We don't want to hear about civil rights. We don't want to hear about human rights. We don't want to hear none of that. You're here to entertain me. Go entertain me. And now y'all super mad. I'm talking y'all threw on y'all capes, and now you're super mad about the fact that not only did she said what she said, and she didn't want to go out there and be in front of the media, so she shut herself up, and now she ain't playing. So now you get nothing. She still said what she had to say. She still said her piece, then left. And y'all super mad. You got to understand that these people are more than athletes. They're human beings that go through some of the same struggles you do, that go through some of the same struggles that your family does, that go through some of the same struggles that maybe your friends do. Having money doesn't absolve you from having mental health issues. Having money doesn't absolve you from finding yourself in situations where those mental health issues are stressed. She's one of the best players in the world. You don't think that everybody wants a piece of her? You don't think that every piece of media wants to go and speak to her? And for someone who is not a natural public speaker, who does have anxiety in those kinds of settings, you think any amount of money is going to fix that? The best possible thing that she could do is remove herself from those kinds of situations, and that's what she tried to do, and you still got mad. Even though if the shoe was on the other foot and it was you, or it was your family member, or it was one of your close friends, you'd be right there to support them. But because they're not giving you what you want, which is displaying their athletic talents for your entertainment, they're villains. It's time for some of y'all to grow the hell up. It's time for some of y'all to smarten the hell up. Not here just to give you entertainment. They have to protect their peace too. And the sooner you understand that, the better off this world will be. You should be damned ashamed of yourselves for reacting this way instead of embracing her and saying, we understand, how can we help? Absolutely disgusting. Well, y'all, that'll do it for me. I really hate to leave it on that note, but hey, look, sometimes you just got to say what you got to say. Put it out there in the world. Hope it marinates and resonates. This has been episode 84 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. Y'all know where to find me on social media at the20double. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. Follow me there. Instagram and Twitter. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show is Toss Facebook page. We talk about a lot of things there that we don't get a chance to here on the show. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Give us a follow. Talk to us. We love you for it. And TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T Squared, Tristain Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week, so long from Toss.